There are places in the world that don't just offer luxury. They define it not through marketing, not through slogans, but through sheer scale, detail, and presence. On the edge of the Arabian Gulf, built on a man-made island shaped like a palm tree, there is a stretch of coastline designed to represent the absolute peak of modern tourism. A place where billion-dollar resorts line the shore, where private beaches extend for hundreds of meters, where suites are larger than most homes, and where every detail, from marble floors to crystal chandeliers, was meant to send a message to the world. Dubai is not just a destination. It is an experience engineered to impress. And for years, it worked. Before we go deeper, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me until the end. Because what's happening right now in Dubai is something very few people are talking about openly. Because today, something feels different. The same coastline that once felt alive with movement now feels quieter. The same luxury resorts that operated at near full capacity are now running at a fraction of what they were built for. Beachfront restaurants that once required reservations days in advance now have empty tables even during peak hours. Corridors inside five-star hotels echo with footsteps instead of conversations. And the question is no longer whether this is temporary. The question is what changed. To understand that, you have to look at the numbers. In 2025, Dubai welcomed around 19.59 million international visitors, making it one of the most visited cities in the world. Tourism was not just a sector. It was the foundation of the city's global identity. Luxury resorts, especially those located on Palm Jumeirah, were operating as high-performance assets built with the expectation of constant global demand from Europe, Russia, China, and the Middle East. But in early 2026, that system was disrupted. A regional conflict began at the end of February, triggering immediate changes across the travel network. Flights were cancelled, airspace became restricted, and thousands of travelers were stranded before being evacuated. Within weeks, the impact became visible across Dubai's tourism sector. Hotel occupancy rates dropped sharply, with many properties falling to just 15% to 20% occupancy. Some luxury resorts reported even lower numbers, operating at single-digit levels. Buildings designed to host hundreds of guests were suddenly functioning with only a handful of occupied rooms. And when that happens, everything around it starts to break down. Restaurants inside hotels saw revenue drops of 50%, 70%, even 80%, depending on how dependent they were on tourists. Staff were placed on reduced hours, some on unpaid leave, and entire sections of hotels were quietly shut down to reduce costs. Because a luxury resort is not designed to operate at. Think about what it takes to keep one running: air conditioning across massive interiors in desert heat, pools, spas, lighting systems, 24-hour staffing, security, maintenance. These are constant, fixed, and extremely high costs. When occupancy drops, revenue disappears, but expenses remain. That creates a dangerous imbalance. And it's not just about numbers. It's about perception. Tourism runs on confidence. When images begin to circulate, empty beaches, quiet hotels, reduced activity, it changes how people think. Even if the situation stabilizes, the perception lingers. More than 226,000 short-term bookings across the UAE were cancelled within the first month. Major events were postponed. Conferences were cancelled. Airlines reduced schedules. Dubai International Airport, which handled over 95 million passengers the year before, slowed significantly. The flow of people, the lifeline of the system, was interrupted. But here's where it gets more complex. This didn't start as a single problem. It became a layered one. Even before 2026, Dubai's luxury tourism model was evolving. The city had expanded aggressively. More hotels, more resorts, more short-term rentals. Supply was increasing rapidly while traveler behavior was shifting. People were no longer traveling just for luxury. They were traveling for experiences. And that shift matters because a resort, no matter how expensive, is still just a place to stay unless it offers something beyond that. Something unique. Something memorable. Something that justifies the cost, the travel, and the time. Now combine that shift with a sudden drop in global travel confidence. You don't just get a slowdown. You get emptiness. Walk through parts of Palm Jumeirah today and you'll see it. Resorts that still look perfect on the outside, but inside the energy is different. The scale feels larger because there are fewer people. Spaces designed for crowds feel oversized. Silence becomes noticeable. And in a city built on constant movement, silence stands out. But here's the part most people don't consider. Dubai has been here before. In 2008, during the global financial crisis, real estate projects were halted and confidence collapsed. The city adapted. In 2020, global travel stopped almost overnight, but Dubai reopened faster than most cities and recovered quickly. History shows a pattern. Dubai does not stay down for long. But this time feels different because this is not just a financial disruption or a travel disruption. It's multiple forces hitting at once. Tension, shifting traveler expectations, increased competition, and an oversupply of luxury infrastructure. That combination creates a more complex recovery path. Tourism will return, but it may not return in the same way. Visitors may spend differently. Travel patterns may shift. Preferences may change. And that means the properties that succeed in the next phase will not simply be the biggest or the most expensive. They will be the most adaptable. Because the definition of luxury itself is changing. Today, luxury is not just about how something looks. It's about how it feels. It's about personalization, experience, emotion, and memory. A guest no longer wants just a suite with a view. They want something they can't replicate somewhere else. Something worth sharing. And that's a different challenge. Because infrastructure is static, but expectations are not. You can build a resort with the best materials, the best design, the best location, but if the and in luxury tourism, predictable is dangerous. Because it leads to something subtle, not collapse, but irrelevance. So what happens next? There are two possible paths. The first is recovery through momentum. Travel stabilizes, flights resume, confidence returns, and tourists come back. Occupancy rises, revenue recovers, and the system continues. That's the optimistic scenario. The second path is transformation, where resorts don't wait for visitors but redefine what they offer. Turning spaces into experiences. Creating reasons to visit beyond just luxury. Adapting to new expectations rather than relying on old ones. That path is harder, but more sustainable. Because the global tourism landscape is changing. New destinations are emerging. Saudi Arabia is investing heavily in tourism. Other regions are building experiences designed specifically for modern travelers. Dubai is no longer the only option. And that changes everything. Because now travelers compare. And when they compare, they don't just look for the best. They look for the most meaningful. So when you look at Dubai today, at its resorts, its beaches, its skyline, you're not just looking at a city in slowdown. You're looking at a system in transition. The buildings are still there. The infrastructure is still world-class. The ambition hasn't changed. But the environment around it has. And that's what defines the future. Because in the end, this isn't just about empty resorts. It's about a deeper question. Can a city built on scale and spectacle adapt to a world moving toward experience and individuality? Because if it can, this moment will be remembered as a pause, a reset, a transition before the next phase of growth. But if it can't, then the silence you're seeing right now, the empty beaches, the quiet resorts, the reduced movement, may not be temporary. It may be the beginning of something much bigger. So the real question is not whether Dubai is empty today. It's whether it knows how to fill itself again in a completely different world. If you've been to Dubai recently or you're planning to go, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep, unfiltered breakdowns of global cities, tourism, and what's really happening behind the headlines, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. Because this story is far from over.